The era we live in is certainly an era of change. Political change, cultural change, dinner menu change, changes in how we do things, changes in how we view things, changes in how we think. And all of this change, many ask the question, what is truth? Pontius Pilate asked this very question, what is truth? And he never came to a conclusion. He just washed his hands and said, whatever happens, I'm not responsible. But certainly, we do not want to be like Pilate. We want to come to a conclusion. Really, we want to be responsible citizens in whatever area of life we are in.
In our new video series, we decided to make the truth known, because truth is important. Truth overshadows everything. Just swallow that down. Everything. And one more thing about truth. Truth never changes.
That's interesting, that in a world so devoted to change, truth never changes.
I mean, like, no matter how hard I try to convince you that watermelons are blue when they're growing in the field, but they turn green once they're sat on the shelf in the store, it's not true. And no matter how hard I try to change that, I can't. If the United Nations were to try to change the law of physics, then they can't, because truth never changes. And people may change, and that change may put them more in line with the truth, but truth does not change itself to fit the desires of man.
You know, 2 plus 2 will always be 4. Girls will always be girls. Boys will always be boys. For some, that's hard to digest. Gravity will always be gravity. By the way, I'm allergic to gravity, so I guess I'll just have to keep on dealing with that.
For some people, this whole truth thing doesn't always work. Like with politicians, it's hard not to pick on them. That's not truth. The truth is, it's pretty easy to pick on them. But they'll say one thing one day, and then the next day, they'll change their positions. You know, 2 plus 2 equals 4 to 2 plus 2 equals 5 or something. I mean, it's close enough to what they said before, right?
You know, to illustrate this point, once I was in a public library and I was holding my baby brother. And as you know, babies tend to be rather vocal, almost as vocal as teenagers. But anyway, a man was in the library also, and he walked by and he's like, wow, you're awful loud there, buddy. Think he'll grow up to be a politician? He meant it in good fun, but citizens, and there is some hasty generalization fallacy involved in all of this, but citizens tend to give politicians a bad rap because politicians will keep on changing their views. Their truth will continue to change. Hence we have the term career politicians.
God is the author of truth, and because He created everything how He has decreed that truth will never change. So if you forget everything else that we say on our little shows, don't forget that.
And you know, on these shows that we're going to be doing, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. There's a lot of things to talk about.
GOP primaries.
Speech and debate.
Supreme Court cases.
United Nations.
Convention of the States.
The Clinton dynasty.
Libertarian and conservative ideologies.
Environmentalist and progressive ideologies.
Liberalism in politics and churches.
Domino's versus Figaro's Pizza.
Floccinicillihilifilipilification.
Say that one more time.
Floccinicillihilifilipilification.
Oh my goodness. Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
What on earth?
It's a real word.
Honorificabilitudinitatis.
Listen, no word should be longer than the alphabet. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's what you say when you don't know what to say.
I found it in the alphabet.
Okay, folks, you get the point. On these videos, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Things that you may not have heard of before. Things we might not have heard of before. You know, we're not just going to pick sides willy-nilly, though. We always want to be on the side of truth on everything that we address. And we want you guys, the audience, to also understand what the truth is, because once you guys understand what the truth is, you guys and us can make wiser decisions.
Obviously, we are not polished, distinguished professors. We just finished milking the cow, so we're going to learn a lot in all of this too.
You know, I can't stress this enough, that these are exciting times that we are experiencing right now, and I think we and many other people, especially young people like us, want to take a part in all of this, and we want to be on the side of truth. And you know, whole nations are going downhill. Churches won't let there are churches in America like this. They won't let Christian singing groups mention the name of Jesus in their prayers. If this is the case, why are we so indignant that the judicial systems and the courts and all of that they're pushing against "In God We Trust" and prayer in public schools? Is there an inconsistency in our logic somewhere? By the way, Isaac, you probably don't know this, but logic is the proper use of our reasoning capacities in how we decipher truth. In fact, I think I have the book, you know. Isaac Watts. It's got the same name as you, Isaac. Isaac Watts' book of logic, the right use of reason and inquiry after ding, 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 truth. In the past few months, several months, I've been trying to read this book. It's kind of a big, very exhaustive work. But logic is the right use of reason and the inquiry after truth. And he says that logic will help us to guard against error in the affairs of religion and human life, as well as in the sciences. You know, I can't think of a time that their generation as well as our generation they needed logic in all of these three areas. We need logic in these areas today: religion, human life, and the sciences. According to Isaac Watts, logic is divided into 4 parts: conception, perception, and then judgment, and then argumentation, and lastly, disposition.
That's 5 parts.
Well, the first 2 was 1, which makes 4. Well, we'll talk about it later, okay? I'll show you the book, okay? Don't worry about it.
Another important thing about truth is it tends to hurt sometimes. The real truth does not always come across as wonderful or beautiful at first, especially in a culture where we're so far removed from it. But that does not mean that we should not live by truth. And to live by truth doesn't mean to just talk about how great it is and how it makes people feel good and pat each other on the back. But truth may offend people sometimes. And think of it this way. One of the attributes of truth is that it exposes that which is opposed to it.
In other words, some things will shock you. Some things will paralyze you. Some things will surprise you.
Or anger you.
Yeah, and at any rate, some of the things we're going to be saying is going to cause you to walk away thinking, man, I always thought that was weird. I always thought they shouldn't have been doing that. I always thought I shouldn't have been doing that, eating that, voting that, buying that. There's a lot of important things we're going to be talking about. And it's likely that some of them are going to affect your and my thinking.
Maybe we'll even say behold or something when we mention something important.
Like in the Bible.
Yeah, like in the Bible, where you see the word behold. You know something particularly important is about to be said.
And by the way, my name is Daniel Helland. I am 16 years old. I like the outdoors, farming, and I like writing novels. I like studying history, and I like my mother's cooking. And ever since I started watching the GOP presidential primary, the debates, I thought that politics was rather interesting, even though I didn't really understand anything at that time. Also, about a year back, we were doing that homeschool debate.
Huh?
And it's been a little while, but we've been participated in a homeschool debate league, and so speech and debate has always been rather interesting to me too. So while I'm outside groveling in the dirt and the mud, scooping cow manure, milking the cow, I'm always thinking about the outside world, you know.
My name is Isaac Helland, and I'm 16 too because we're twins.
Wait, whoa. You remember I told you we weren't supposed to say that we were twins. It's bad enough that they can already see that we're related. Well, okay, just let me tell you, I am the better twin, okay?
Don't listen to him. He makes it sound like he works so hard out there, scooping the manure, building fences, but I do all of that, and I can do a whole bunch of things like he doesn't know how to do. And he's never been smart enough to build computer programs or anything like that. Doesn't know a word of PHP or JavaScript. I mean, he's completely computer illiterate. I mean, he can't even tell you what an X11 session is on a Linux box.
The only X's I know about are the corner sex chickens.
Chickens? I don't like chickens. You know, one day they were, building, they're laying eggs in my herb garden.
Or building eggs.
Ever since then, I haven't really liked them. Oh, and by the way, I do like gardening as well, along with studying constitutional law and reading about Supreme Court justices.
So that's us, two peas in a pod, as is very obvious. We live in a very loving family out here in the Northwest. But I think it's about time we sum up our show. And to sum it up, let me make one last point. Life is very short. It passes like the wind. Before you know it, it's gone. Only those people who have pursued after truth as hard as they possibly could have been remembered as noble individuals. Sure, other people are remembered, like Hitler, who believed in survival of the fittest, and in the end he committed suicide, which kind of makes you wonder who was the fittest there. But sure, many other people are remembered who did not pursue after truth. But they're not remembered as anything noble. They're remembered as exactly what they were. Wicked individuals who make generations after them feel sick when they think about them.
Those who seek after truth, after wisdom, which is another word for truth, are remembered as good and family people, good community people, good church people, and good statesmen. Daniel and me want to be remembered as sincere, honest people who knew what we stood for. You know, once there was a prominent preacher during what historians call the Great Awakening, and his name was George Whitefield. You may have heard of him. And once a man was going to hear George Whitefield, and he ran into one of his acquaintances, and that acquaintance said, "You don't believe all that stuff that George Whitefield preaches, do you?" And the man said, "Of course not." He was an atheist. And but he said, "But George Whitefield does." See, he knew that George Whitefield was an honest, sincere person who really believed what he said.
You know, some people brag and feel very pious by saying that they wouldn't be martyred for any cause for fear that in the end they would find that they were wrong. Behold, history has produced men of tougher stuff than that.
So be sure to come back here for the next show. We won't start without you.
Bye.